Hi, my name is Cassie, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my classroom management. So, my philosophical beliefs, they follow Rudolf Draker's. First, rules should be made together by the teachers and the students. He believes that, and I believe that as well. That's why I most closely align with him, just because that I think that students and teachers should come together and form how the classroom is going to be operated. Second, he believes that he emphasizes figuring out the underlying issues as to why students are acting out. As a special education major, I really believe that behaviors don't come from nowhere, and so um, figuring out why students are acting a certain way is really important. So if you can figure that out, you can help the student in the long run. The third thing is that students cooperate in the classroom without being penalized or rewarded. A lot of times I feel like students should just like do the normal everyday things without having a token economy for those or being penalized. So um, I agreed with him on that as well. And then lastly, students should feel like they are valuable contributors to the classroom. That'll just make your classroom run more efficiently. So those are the reasons why I tend to agree the most with him. Developing rules in my classroom, I think that rules should be set up as a whole class, in that I, as the teacher, should not set them up by myself. It should be a democratic process, so the students and I should come together and figure those out. And they should be agreed upon by everyone because everyone's going to have to follow them, so they should be a part in creating them. Additionally, everyone who creates the rules will be more willing to follow those rules. So if you are part of making them, then you should know them well and you should be able to follow them. Uh, Another thing is that all of my rules will be written positively. I don't want negative behaviors in my classroom, so I don't want to write things in a negative way. So writing them just in a positive manner, like keeping our hands to ourselves, um, instead of like no hitting, is a way that I would write that rule instead. And then those rules will be posted in the classroom so that if a student is for some reason breaking those, I can direct them to our rules and say, this is one of our rules. Token economies, again, like I'm a special education major, so token economies are really, really beneficial for students who have um, severe behaviors. So setting up a ticket system for each individual student, and that would just be something along the lines of like receiving a ticket every time a student completed a homework assignment on time, or if you're working on them, if you're working with them on like filling out their planner, or going through an entire class period without having a misbehavior. Any of those things they could receive a ticket for, and then that student, once they reach a certain number of tickets, five days a week, something like that, they can turn those in for a prize, computer time, free time at the end of study hall or something like that. Um, and the most important thing about ticket token economies is that you never take the ticket away from the student. When you take the ticket away, or if you are using a token economy and you like take something away from the student that they've earned, that's like really counterproductive for the student, and your token economy won't be as great. So that's what I believe for the token economies. And then you can kind of like see down there, put a couple pictures in of like something that they would kind of be working towards. So like what I'm working for, like free time, then you would have your stickers kind of going all the way up to that. Um, or like the little caterpillar would be like once they earned the 5 stickers, whatever they were like working on or working for, they would achieve those things and they'd be able to get those. Misbehaviors in my classroom. I'm going to be working with students who have a lot of misbehaviors. Um, so first of all, the rules should be developed as a class. So the students should know the rules well. And I believe that if someone does misbehave in a classroom, that the punishment should fit the rule that was broken. Um, so my process for if someone does have a misbehavior is the first thing I'll do is that I'll refer the student to the posted rules of the classroom. Um, they can see like clearly stated like you can't do this, 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 so you know why you broke those, or you know that you broke that rule. And then I really don't think that there's like a one size fits all, especially for special education. So the student who broke the rule, the punishment will be individualized for that misbehavior. So students who are not doing their work, you need to look at like the underlying thing in that, like why aren't they doing their work? So maybe it's too hard and that assignment needs to be modified for that student and they acted out because it was too hard for them. So my reaction to that would just be helping the student work through the current assignment and talking to the teacher about their difficulty with it. A different example that I put on there was that if a student got into an altercation with another student, give that student some time to calm down, and talk and show them what the appropriate response is. So sometimes that student doesn't know how to appropriately respond when another student maybe picks a fight or is kind of egging them on to do something. So showing them what appropriate reactions are. And then in the corner there, I put a little like take a break strategies, which is something that I have seen used a lot as well. Just like, okay, like remove yourself from the situation, take a break from this, deep breaths, count to 4, things like that. And so it's like showing a student that like taking a break is okay. And then I have another slide about like how else I'm going to respond to misbehaviors. I also believe in the phrase praise publicly and punish privately. So if there's a misbehavior, that child shouldn't be talked to in front of the entire class. You need to talk to them privately about what happened and like why that was not an okay response. And then you praise them publicly. So you just need to be telling them like all the great things that they're doing as well. And if a child misbehaves, again, it depends on what environment they're in for me. So if they're in the special education classroom, then they can go to the quiet area if it's a smaller behavior. So if it was just something minor, they can just go to the quiet corner and like take a break. But if they're in the general education classroom, it's a little bit different. If they're like in an inclusive classroom and they were in the gen ed classroom and I'm like called in there if I wasn't already in the classroom, then first of all, like they would need to leave that setting and probably go into the special education classroom. And then I would work with students who have, so I'm going to work with students who have extreme behaviors. And in those cases, if it's something like really major misbehavior, they're going to need to talk to the guidance counselor or the principal because some of those behaviors are not things that having small little reactions for are going to solve. So some of those things need to be dealt with by guidance counselors or principals. And then the last thing about misbehaviors that I wanted to mention was that I believe in having a classroom that's proactive, not reactive. So learning students' triggers and how to avoid those situations is just really important. Learning that if a student doesn't like doing a certain thing, that you need to prepare them in advance, even days before that event happens, so that you don't have a big blow up and that student isn't caught off guard by those things. Communicating with parents is a major thing for me, especially being case managers for a lot of students. So the first thing I want to do is send home a letter to the parents about the upcoming school year and just telling them a little bit about myself and kind of how my classroom is run. And then making a phone call to the parents about changes that were implemented for that student. So if I've decided that this student will really benefit from a token economy, I'm just going to call home and let the parents know like what's happening, why I've decided to do this. And then because I will likely be that child's case manager as well, it's really, really important to establish a positive relationship with the parents right away because I'm going to be with that student. We're going to be talking about all of his or her educational plans and like things that we're going to be helping that student with for probably a few years. So it's just really important to have that positive relationship with the parents where they feel that they can always reach out to me and call me or email me. And then the last thing I put on here was just to make sure that they always feel that they can come to me with any questions and knowing that I'm always available for a call or an email. My first day of school is, first of all, establish routines right away. So routines are crucial, especially for students with special education services. Establishing that routine is going to help them get into the groove of things, and it's really going to help them not have any misbehaviors right away. So I also need to make sure that my classroom is open and welcoming. I want all students to feel like they belong in my classroom and that my classroom is a safe space, even for students who do not receive special education services. Like I want anyone to feel like they can come to my classroom. Another one of those things that we don't always think about on the first day of school is finalizing the schedules for each student. So this is more of a middle school and high school thing. But if there are students, if I have a lot of different students in a lot of different classrooms, I need to make sure that those line up so that either myself or a paraprofessional can go into those classrooms and be looking at that. So I could definitely try to do that before, but a lot of times things are changing right before the school year starts. So the first day of school is it takes a lot of time to like work out the kinks of people's schedules. Then the last thing that I want to establish on the first day is just I want to talk and get to know the students. So it's really important to right away to establish that positive relationship with those students and start building rapport with them because that's it's kind of like a make it or break it time. So playing a game with them to get to know the students so that they feel welcome is really valuable on the first day. Um, so talking about the Power of Words article that we read, so just in general, the way you talk to your students is really, really important. So I need to make sure that I always have a really positive voice and words with my students. Using language, my language that I use with the students is just really important. It's what helps keep them on task. So just even like when I remind them to keep doing their assignments or when I remind them, like, okay, like eyes on the board, saying that in a positive way instead of like, hey, pay attention. It's like, okay, like eyes on the board, Tommy, instead. So just using those positive words. And then staying calm, even when my kid is, or one of the students that I'm working with is having a really big misbehavior, I need to keep myself calm and my words need to be calm because if I were to escalate, like their reactions are going to escalate, and that's not going to help anything. So I need to continue to use positive words when a child is escalating to keep them from escalating further. And then just the last thing is that our words shape how our students think and act. So we want our words to be positive with our students so that they are positive as well. And then the last thing is inclusive classrooms. So again, I'm a special education major, so inclusive classrooms are something that I hope that I'm always in. I think that including students in the general education classroom is crucial. It's crucial for the students who have a disability and the students without a disability. It benefits everyone. Um, and then my role in an inclusive classroom is going to be different from one teacher to another. Sometimes it's going to be I'm just an observer and I float around and help students while the other person is teaching. And then other times it's going to be a co-teaching classroom. So we're going to like plan the lessons together and we're going to teach those lessons together. And sometimes the students might not even know who they would just think I'm just a normal teacher. They wouldn't know that I'm there to help support like a certain student or a few specific students. And then helping general education teachers create lessons that include all people. So I'm going to be there to help general education teachers when they come to me and they say, I need to differentiate for this student. How do I do this? How do I modify? How do I make this lesson for that student? And then just helping them so that the lessons are created for all students and that they're not being modified after they're created, because that's not planning a lesson with everyone in mind. That's creating a lesson and then changing it at the end of it to make sure. So we want to make sure that all students are included. So just making sure that we're creating it in its entirety, like from the beginning with all students in mind so that all students can participate. And those are my sources. So thank you so much.